If you're going to be in the construction industry, you got to have thick skin. You're going to mess up.
Employees are smart. Candidates are smart. If they see smoke, there's fire.
I really liked building things, and I found out that there was a course for that.
Actually, it's gamification for construction. I love it.
What does that mean for a young person looking at the trades?
For the younger generation, it's important to treat them as another professional, like somebody that could grow in that company.
The way we fix the trades is tapping into the younger generation.
One thing that shocked me about choices that younger kids are making is
like serious projects ran by 22, 25-year-olds. Dude, that's pretty awesome.
The chances are that the younger generation is smarter than us. They're making better choices than we do.
Welcome to Beers with Contractors.
All right, tradies, it is another week. Welcome to another episode of Beers with Contractors. Terry, cheers to you, buddy.
Cheers, buddy.
We've already been pre-gaming a little bit here today. You know what? Getting loosened up, getting into that fall weather. So
beautiful.
Oh, gosh, I hate it. I hate it so bad. I'm such a pool and country music guy. I want to just bring all the hot weather, please. And I know all of our contractor buddies out there are hating me for saying it right now. But that's okay. It is beer season. If you like my shirt, I found that online, figured, yep, that'll be a good fitting for the show. So, hey, Terry, before we get into our intro topic, I want to go ahead and give a shout-out to our new subscribers. Thank you, guys. Missed a week here because of our last episode, but Carrie LaFretta, Matt Deering, Nick Isidoro, Luis Nieder Helpman, Adam Huggins, Adrian Basilijek, Clayton E43, T-Short 8881. Thank you guys for subscribing. We love those. I always try to subscribe back to you guys, so really appreciate that. So, Terry, I was in BHA, that's the Basement Health Association conferences last week in Louisville, Kentucky. By the way, have you ever been to Louisville?
No, I have not.
It's a cool town. Like, you kind of forget it's there. Tons of, like, there's theater after music venue, all on one street, 4th Street Live. And there's tons of big acts there the entire time we were there for the conference. But super nice people. Got to see the Louisville Slugger Bat Factory, and where they still make all the bats for across the country in the major. Here we go. I'm going to get hate from everybody online. Major League Baseball. By the way, do you know how much a baseball bat cost? A Major League Baseball bat costs for a player in the MLB?
No, how much?
I mean, throw a guess out there.
$500.
$198. I was
That's
thinking,
it?
huh? Yeah, I was like, I would thought it would have been way more expensive. But they were talking about the science of it. One of the things that was really crazy, the carpenter in me was very, very happy. Most use birch baseball bats now, and I didn't think about this. And the reason they use birch is because as it is used, it gets harder over time. I guess because the grain in the lumber gets tighter and tighter the more that it's hit. And I was like, huh, really? So I was today years old when I learned that there at the Louisville Bat Factory, which was pretty cool.
How long's that factory been in operation?
Oh, so it started back in the 1800s. They were building house goods, like furniture, pre-World War II, by the way. And then what happened was the son of the guy that started the wood shop wanted a baseball bat for his baseball team. So they started making baseball bats. And then every season they make more. And then eventually those kids grew up and people started getting wind of, hey, we need a Louisville Slugger. And then that's all they do. And it's crazy. It's a whole business and a culture built around baseball bats. It was cool. It's a must-see. Factory's still in use, so when you're going through, they're making the baseball bats there right in front of you. So it's pretty cool. Hey, but the reason I was there and I wanted to talk about this today is I was there in Louisville to talk to the Basement Health Association owners about systems and processes and, you know, establishing systems and processes in your business so you can grow and things like that. And then I got to thinking, like, that's kind of like what you do, Terry. I mean, that's all you do practically every day.
Yes.
Is teach students processes, right?
Yeah, so if you look...
Yeah, I wanted to get your take on this. Like, if I'm a contractor out there in the world having to train people on processes, you know, get your crayons out for us here. How do you do that?
So, you know, what we do at a 2-year college institution, you know, we take young people in, And first off, you have to assume anyone coming through that door knows nothing. You need to wipe away any idea that they were raised in the same way you were. They know the same things. They've had the same experiences. You have to take those preconceptions and throw them out the door. Once you do that, and you stop making assumptions on what they know or what they should know, and you just start at the very basics, and you bring everyone up, and you make the disclaimer, like, I know some of you know this, but we're going to start at the bottom to make sure everyone knows it the way I need you to know it, right? So if you're training people with your processes and your organizational mindset, you start everyone at the bottom, and you bring them all up. And then you look at everything as a process. You need to give a rubric or a game plan or a step-by-step.
Hold on. Don't use those big words with me. What is rubric?
See, that's a problem. I knew that as soon as I started using those $3 words.
That's
it was
all right.
gonna
Hold
get
on.
to you.
Imagine that I know nothing. That was the first word that came out of your first sentence.
I don't have to imagine with you. So if I'm looking at a rubric, right, it is a step-by-step guide for a student or a person that says, this is what you do, this is good, this is better, this is best. And so if I'm a teacher, I'm saying, hey, this is 5 points, this is 10 points, this is 15, right? And so you have to lay out each level of expectation. And each one, it's a little bit more, it's a little bit better. You know, they covered 3 out of the 5 points, or they covered 4 out of the 5 points that they needed to. But everything we do now in construction, for the most part, is managing a process, right? It's not the installation, it's not the physical work, it is the time and again process that you have to hold true to. That is what you have to teach your people, or teach my students.
Now, when you're going through this rubric, fancy pants, is that something that you're genuinely creating from scratch? I mean, that you're creating that whole thing from just a common Word document, or where have you pulled some of that in the past?
So ChatGPT is an amazing tool to use, right?
By the way, you laugh like heck. A lot of our questions on the show come from ChatGPT, or that's where it starts, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing. It gives you a draft, and it gives you a basic layout for your rubric. And then you tweak it and you modify it, and you make it something that is specific to your needs, your class, your business. And once you have that, you can run with it. And the other part of it is don't become stagnant. I can't tell you how many times we'll be going through a lesson or talking about something, and the fact of the matter is that there is a new take, or there's been an improvement. And if you're stationary for 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, then you're out of date. And so you need to make sure, especially with the younger students coming in, they're always young, right? And they always have a different take on it. That
they're definitely younger than us, buddy.
Well, that's not saying much, but you modify it, you grow it, and continual improvement is what you need to be doing.
So do you find that professors get old and stuck in their ways and don't want to change, their outlines and what they're presenting and teaching?
Oh,
is that common in academia?
Oh yeah, and you'll catch it every now and then. You'll see like a slide deck or a PowerPoint that comes through, and it has like a date that's a few years old, or they'll have some type of information associated with what they're doing that is just out of date. And what you have to understand is that you have to be flexible with everything that you're doing. You have to move forward and understand that new information is going to come about. New technology is going to be introduced. The basics are going to remain, but you have to be willing to learn.
Well, the reason I ask that is because it's easy to poke fun, and I mean the setup on this, Terry, was meant to be a compliment. Is that in your world and career, there's people that don't want to change, right? Mm-hmm. Well, that never happens with business owners. They're always flexible to change. They're always open to it, right? So that's, I'm sorry if I pissed any of our listeners off out there, because it's like one of those was like, yeah, these professors, they don't want to change. And man, at times we got to get up with these new students and get people ready. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, yeah, I guess contractors are not the most flexible people either. So it's like, we've been doing it this way for 60 years, right? And my dad taught me this way, and he taught his dad taught him that way. And it kind of reminded me, we compared some stories, which I'll give you credit. I think your story was better about the well, I won't slaughter it. What was the story about processes and change?
No, so it's this. I think it's a joke out there that there somewhere there's a military base and they have sentries guarding a bench, right? And no one's allowed to sit in the bench, and it's been that way for years and years, decades and decades. And finally, a retired general comes onto base and he's walking around, and he walks up to this bench and he sees the sentries guarding it, and he looks at them and he's like, "Why are you here?" And the sentries just respond, "Well, the orders are that no one can sit in this bench, and it's been like that for decades and decades." And then he kind of looks and he's like, "Well, I gave those orders, and the reason I gave them is the paint was wet." It's that idea that something that made sense during that point in time, that was completely a great idea at the time, is a little outdated. And if we don't examine it, then we're going to fail.
Yeah. Well, that's a funny joke. Way better than mine. So that's what I was going to tee you up for that, because that's a great story. Well, hey, on to our guest. I'm excited about our guest today. I've actually met this guest, and Terry, you were the one that introduced me to him.
Yep.
So our guest today, and by the way, I'm going to have to poke fun a little bit here in a second. I'm going to give everybody a little kind of peek behind the curtain on how our show runs here. But let me get through the intro first. So our guest today is Manuel Gutierrez Jr. He is the assistant superintendent at a company called AC Owens. Got an early start in his working life under his father, who was a fencing contractor. And then, on his own time, decided to take night classes at our local OSU OKC Construction Science Division. Terry, thank you for that. Under a horrible professor, dare I say an asshole of a guy, named Terry Kleinfelter. So all jokes aside, you did a good job, Terry. I'm excited to hear, because we don't hear a lot of winning case studies about the younger generation wanting to make a difference in the trade. So welcome our guest today, Manuel Gutierrez Jr. Welcome, buddy.
This episode is sponsored by Performance, the bonus system designed to increase profits for your construction company. Performance incentivizes your production team for more efficient installs and rewards them when they beat your preset labor goals. So no more milking the clock and no more unnecessary gas station trips. Performance drives your team to work harder and smarter. Every construction company on Performance has seen a 7% decrease in direct labor costs or more. Click the link in the description or visit performance.co to schedule your demo today. That's PER, MANCE.co. Reward your team, retain your team, grow your profits. Performance.
Thank you for having me.
And by the way, here's the peek behind the curtain. So we have a Google Doc that we have with our questions. And Terry and I can see this Google Doc, and we can type messages to one another if we want to adjust our questions. Out of courtesy, we share the Google Doc with our guest. And damn it, this little overachiever isn't already in there putting his answers down. And I want to how do you digitally slap the wrist of our guest, Terry? I'm confused here. We've never had that happen.
We just start deleting something. I know it's going to work.
He's reformatting our questions like, this actually isn't a good question to delete. I'm just picking on you, Manuel. So, hey, so listen, I met you several months ago. You're an awesome person, but you kind of came up in the trades, obviously. But tell us a little bit more about that. I want to hear your story.
I think in a lot of Latino community, it's very common for them from a young age to help out the family and the construction, or whether it be outside lawn care. And I mean, sometimes they teach you to, like, you don't want to do this when you grow up, study, become a doctor, become a lawyer, something like that. And for me, I mean, I played video games when I was younger, and I played this game called Minecraft. Right? I mean, it's kind of funny, but it works out for me. I mean, I really liked building things, and I found out that there was a course for that. You know,
Huh.
And-
I really liked architecture, and so then I tried to go for architecture, and I realized that that wasn't for me.
Uh-huh.
But I still wanted to be a part of the construction field, so I looked towards construction management.
Oh, cool. And then that's where you ended up working during the day and going to night school, essentially, to get that certification or degree?
When I started school, I was still working with my dad, and I would work throughout the day, probably to around 4:30, and then I would go to class at 5:30.
Wow. So, and Terry, remind me, this was a certification course through OSU, or was it a degree?
No.
Tell me about this, guys.
No, so when I met Manuel, he came in and he took the 2-year associate's degree in construction management. And, you know, what he was saying is he took the classes at night or online, and he worked during the day. And his story is a lot of what we see out of a lot of students. And Manuel, I got to tell you this. You're speaking for all young people at this point in time, right? So you represent them at this point in time.
Yeah, no pressure, buddy.
No pressure, yep.
Yeah, don't screw this. But to that point, I mean, what do you think are some of the biggest concerns or misconceptions of your generation to starting a career either in construction or in the trades?
Personally, I like to imagine myself not knowing a lot, so then I could try to learn as much as I can. But I feel like a lot of the younger generation, they're looked at like know-it-alls. That's what I think. Because there is some people out there that kind of, I mean, they have their phone right next to them, and then try to fake it till they make it, pretty much. But I think the other way around. I feel like if I humble myself and try to believe that I still have a lot to learn, which I know I do, I feel like that is like a setup for a good career.
So what are you?
Oh no, hold that thought. Go ahead, Terry.
So what are you doing right now, Manuel?
Right now,
Yeah.
we actually just finished up a project for a demolition company called Midwest Wrecking.
Oh,
We finished up their new facilities alongside my superintendent, Jesus, and my project manager, JP, Justin Partridge.
And so what are your roles on the job? Like, what do they have you doing day to day?
Day to day, I'm doing the daily log, which includes logging the manpower and taking notes down of day-to-day conversations. I also do the safety forms, giving it out to the trades, talking to them, making sure that they have the proper PPE on site, and recording any deliveries that we receive on site. So, I mean, we also do other things day to day depending on what we have. I'll hop on the skid steer here and there or the sky track to make sure that the progress keeps going.
So just kind of picking it up, doing what you need to get the job done.
Yeah, in reality, I mean, I'll assist my superintendent as much as I can, and if we have some downtime, we'll try to help out the trades any way we can, just to make sure that we progress.
And so you're bilingual, right?
Yes, sir.
So as you stepped out onto the job site, has that been a benefit to you?
Oh yes. There's a lot of foremans, and not just the foremans, like the workers that are under the foremans. Being bilingual helps communicate what we have on the plans to them, really, and if they have any questions, because there might be some confusion in explaining it to like an English speaker to a natural Spanish speaker. There might be a loss of translation there, and we can kind of just make that bridge, which really helps.
Yeah.
Because I've seen situations where somebody tries to translate it, like a Spanish speaker tries to translate it from what somebody is talking about in English, and they don't get it quite right. But it's a good thing that myself and the superintendent that we have on site is bilingual.
Yeah, and that's significantly different from what we've had over the past 10, 15 years. That's where we're going.
yeah. Well, and we're seeing it even most of our customers now. Like there's a demand for that in our customers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're starting to staff for that in our company because Google Translate. It's like, man, we've got this massive company and they still can't seem to get Google Translate to work. Right. It's a mess, but By the way, Manuel, how old are you, if I may ask?
I'm 22 years old.
Okay, so I just want to frame this out, okay? And this is what just blows my mind. And I think this is all a good thing, by the way, because there's just charlatans out there and people that just want to bash on the younger generation. And I have met you in person and I thought you were older, to be clear, but 22. I mean, I'm proud of you just talking with you, but frame this up a little bit for me. I own a company. Why did you choose? What do you look for, at such a young age for a company to work for? And what made you decide to go work for AC Owens? Because I think that could help people all over the country that own businesses and how to communicate with people like you.
Right. I really think that coming out of college, there's a lot of big construction companies that if you apply to them, you'll see that they offer big money, which originally that's what I was kind of leaning towards, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I was fortunate enough to have good mentorship, such as Terry, to kind of guide me along what kind of options I should choose. But what really intrigued me was the growth opportunity that was available at ACO and Construction. I had offers from bigger companies, but to me, they didn't seem like they really cared to explain how my career would look like with them. And at ACO and Construction, they made sure to explore the options that I had at the company and the kind of learning opportunities that they had. So that's what really intrigued me about that company. Not to mention the selectivity I feel like they had, because the bigger companies, I feel like they treat you more like a number, and they'll kind of put you into the train, or I guess they'll put you into their system and then they'll spit you out if you don't work out right away. And at ACO and Construction, they made sure to explain the kind of security that you would have if you at least put in effort to better yourself in the company and the industry, really.
So I hear this a lot from my employees about growth, and that can mean a lot of different things to a lot of people. Obviously, if you're 40-something, no offense, Terry. Just kidding, I'm 42.
Yeah. You too, buddy.
Here, cheers to you, buddy. When we talk about growth, it means growth means a lot of different things to a lot of people. So you said, hey, this company wanted to invest in my growth. I mean, what did that mean when you heard that? Was well, I'm not going to front load the question. What were your thoughts there when you heard growth?
My thoughts when I heard that, I was thinking about how fast can I get to the superintendent role. But more and more, I thought about the mentorship that they could provide while I got there.
But, that goes a little deeper. I mean, what kind of qualities do you look for in an employer? But also, what are some of the other ones that some of your friends in other areas in the field, what are they looking for?
I feel like job security at a company is very important. They kind of look towards the history on how long the current employees stay or how long they used to stay. If you take that into note, and I mean, pay is important as well, but the package that comes with the company, such as a company card for fuel or other
like medical coverage
insurance,
or healthcare and things like that.
Healthcare, yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but for this employer, I feel like what was important is that they were very selective. It really felt like they put in some thought into who they were recruiting and who was joining the team. I felt like the community at that, or the culture at that company, was very tight knit. It was a pretty close group, and it was the president of the company as well is very accessible in case you do need anything from him or the management, really.
And Will, what you have to understand is, having him in my program, working with Manuel when it comes time to start looking at job opportunities as he's getting ready to finish up the program, or any student, it's a real enjoyment to be able to start talking with the student, talking about what their aspirations are and where they want to end up. And one thing that I think shocked me about the choices that a lot of these younger students are making, or younger kids are making, is in my generation, in your generation, Will, it's not uncommon to look at a 2-year stint with a company and bounce around from company to company chasing a job title or more money or something like that. And that's not the feeling that I got from Manuel. I mean, was that something that was important to you, Manuel?
Definitely. I feel like if you could grow, I mean, with the right mentorship, you're going to grow regardless. If you see history of the company retaining their employees, it just shows how comfortable or how good the company is to them. So I feel like if I'm going to grow with a company, if that's a choice I'm going to make for my career, I'm going to make sure that it's with a company that takes care of their employees or at least treats them with respect and understanding when it comes to complications with family and such like that.
Yeah. Emmanuel, I'm glad you're mentioning this because I talk to business owners all the time, and I'm like, listen, employees are smart, candidates are smart. If they see smoke, there's fire. So if you have people no-showing to interviews or to, God forbid, their first day, something's up. So what kind of research did you do on ACOs before accepting an offer?
First and foremost, I looked at their website and what kind of projects that they were doing. I talked to my professor since he also had previously recommended a student to that company, and he definitely had a successful career there. So that just came to show that that company has the recipe to create a successful person. That was a really big indicator for me that might be the place for me, especially considering that it was one of his previous students. Having a good career there, I felt like that might have been a good spot to start out or even continue for most of my career.
So you actually knew somebody in the business, and you could actually you kind of peek behind the curtain and be like, hey, by the way, is it really that good on the other side? I mean, I know there's Glassdoor and things like that out there, but it's amazing how much that happens. We find that where candidates will reach out to some of our employees via Messenger, on Instagram, and be like, hey, I'm thinking about getting a job there. What's it like? And people think that's crazy, but it happens. I mean, and it's a real thing, as you should be checking, hey, if I'm going to make a career decision here, maybe I should ask some questions about what it's like to work there first.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that was something Terry had recommended. And I felt like after starting the job, I was lucky enough to be paired with that student. His name's Jesus Ceballos. From there, I kind of got to talking to him and got his point of view on things. And slowly but surely, I realized I made the right choice because I hear that in other companies, there's a lot of horror stories of, big money, but way more stress because they expect a lot more from you, especially if you're coming out of college asking for that big money. So.
Well, and I think that's something that's important to kind of look at because in business, what we're looking at or what we think is that the only thing that matters is money, right? Like it's that dollar sign that's going to get a young person or a new hire to sign that paper. So you're saying that's not the number one thing for you.
No. I mean, there was opportunities there, but I chose to take this route for the mentorship. And like I said earlier, I mean, I hate to be saying the same thing, but the growth opportunities really, because I know the mentorship at this company is going to set me up for a good career. And at the end of the day, the money's going to come. And I mean, I'm really young. I mean, I'm going to get the experience and the money's going to come eventually. I'm just here for the experience, try to learn the best I can.
Yeah. Well, I think that shows you your character, but also I think a lot of folks just don't hold younger generations in high regards. And then speaking to you like this, it's like, no, this is real stuff. We all have to make a living. But the fact is we have even folks, Gen X, that have taken jobs for less, knowing that, hey, this is for the long term, right? So actually, this is kind of interesting. I wanted to jump topics real quick, Manuel. What kind of training or mentorship do you think is crucial when starting in the trades? Take college out of it. Obviously, you grew up in the trades. You learn how to swing the hammer. You learn how to do the tools. But besides that, what's one thing that you think that everyone should know if they want to get into the trades with no experience?
I feel like you should know that it's important for the people who are going to teach you or mentorship you that you got to be very blunt and very patient at the same time. Because
elaborate on that, because that's an interesting. I'm picturing all the gruff, like, old guys that have been doing it for 30 years. Like, yeah, you got to be blunt with these guys. But no, now you're saying no. Even the young folks, they got to be blunt. But elaborate on that, Manuel.
Yeah, because I mean, if you're gonna be in the construction industry, you gotta have thick skin. I feel like it's a given because you're gonna mess up, and like you said, you're gonna be working with these older gentlemen who know how to do this, and you see a younger guy just mess up. It's kind of common if it's like a little, let's say like they're gonna mess with you a little bit at least, which is fine. I mean, you gotta be blunt in the sense that you gotta tell them right away that they're doing it wrong. You don't want to tiptoe around it and tell them like, well, like you can do it better next time. Like you gotta let them know this is the way you're gonna do it. This is how it's supposed to be done, and patient at the same time because you're gonna mess up plenty since they're starting out.
Well, so how many times have you messed up this week? And it's only Monday, by the way, Manuel. I'm just teasing you, buddy. That's all right.
Yeah, it's hard to mess up today. Today was a good day.
I got to tell you, well, you worked with your dad growing up, right? And it's so ironic. My dad was on the podcast last episode. Love my dad. But good God, did he cuss us out growing up for making screw-ups on job sites. I'll never forget some of the... Well, actually, no, it pushed us into the rated R category in Spotify, so we'll keep off of that. But no, I'm glad to hear that because it also shows, hey, it's not a bunch of quote-unquote softies out there in the world, getting into the trades. You guys can take it. Just be a little patient, right?
And I think that's a good point. Like, he says that you need to be patient and blunt, right? So I know growing up, if your dad was in the trades or you grew up working with your dad was blunt, like blunt to a fault, right? And so for a lot of these young people, they've had blunt before, right? What's going to catch them off base is that patience. But, everyone, I mean, my expectation is everyone knows you're learning, right, Manuel?
Yeah, right, yeah.
So.
But I mean, there's definitely a cutoff there where you could be patient, but at the same time, you're not going to try to make the same mistake twice. I mean, if you make the same mistake 3 times, 4 times, and it's going to kind of catch on to kind of character that you have.
So when you started, did they just pile it on you or did they like ease you into it?
I was fortunate enough to start where things were kind of slow. So it wasn't all piled on top of me. So I was a little bit of time there to kind of adjust on my responsibilities as an assistant superintendent, and I feel like I had a good amount of time to adjust and really know my responsibilities. To when it did get busy, I kind of hung on there and try to run along. I guess I don't know how to put it.
So if you're looking at like your week, right? And you've talked about work-life balance with ACOs and that being part of the reason that you went with them. What does that mean for you? What does that mean for a young person looking at the trades? What's it look like?
The work-life balance right now, I feel like, is really good. Typically, the day starts at 7 and ends at 3:30. Obviously, that depends on if there's early morning pours, or if the day drags out for whatever reason. But typically, that's how the day is. And I know as a young person, there's a lot of people my age, they're out and about. But I feel like with the with the job that I have now, I feel like the responsibility that I hold, I think it's just important to have that time after work to relax and go to church on Sundays. So I feel like the work-life balance is really well, especially even if I did go out all the time. A lot of the time I just get home and rest, and I'm reading books now to try to better myself in the construction industry as well. So.
Oh, that's cool. By the way, it is funny, like our crews start at 7 and most of them are back between 3 to 4. Sometimes it's a little bit later if they just want to get it done, but it's funny. It's like I'm sitting here thinking like, man, it's 5:30 and I'm still working. Like all my crews are home. I've done something wrong here. Yeah. So, Manuel, I got to ask you this because I'm in a position of owning a company, and obviously I have a lot of young people in my company working every day, just as many of our listeners do all around the country. So what do you think can be done from our perspective of trying to improve the image of the trade as a career choice for folks of your age?
One, I feel like the path, kind of drawing the path on success is a good one. If they know that they could succeed in that industry and there's a clear path. I mean, obviously the path's not going to be the same for everyone, but a pretty accurate path or a pretty drawn out path, I guess you could say. I feel like that would really help them imagine themselves in that industry. Not to mention, I feel like the money is important, but they got to realize that there's always a start and the progression to get there if they reach the milestones that they're supposed to.
Yeah.
Well, so Manuel, you talked about being able to visualize yourself, right? And so you talked about my former student, the graduate who's been with AC Owens, I think going on like 7 years, Jesus, right? Was that a key, is being able to see someone that had the same background or same community as you and being able to model it for you?
Of course, yeah. Like I said, I work with him. He's actually my superintendent for this next job that we're starting, and I talked to him about the kind of moves that he made when he was younger and what he learned and what he's doing now to progress. And I'm trying to, not copy, but I guess model what I do next, similar to what he did. Just because, I mean, he, in my eyes, and I'm sure in a lot of eyes of my coworkers or like yourself, Terry, he's a success story, and I'd want to be there one day. So I'm trying to, I guess, be his shadow and learn the most I can, soak it all up.
Well, and I mean, you're 22 years old. I think he's probably about 25, 27. I mean, you guys have some responsibility, right?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Yeah,
like,
these
how
are
much
not
was this
small
last
projects.
project you can?
I mean, Terry, he was mentioning these projects before. I didn't realize that they were that big. Like, these are, like, serious projects ran by 22, 25-year-olds. And I know it's not all the case, but dude, that's pretty awesome. Like, wow.
They're really big projects, but I know Jesus, he has a lot of experience, and we have a really good team behind us, so we get it done. He has the experience to handle these big projects, and the duties that I have, the responsibilities, just help him succeed in what he has to do.
But I mean, let's put a number to that big project. How much is it valued at?
Which one?
The one you're completing, ballpark.
Ballpark, somewhere 7 to 8 million.
And
That's
they're
a tiny project. Quit bragging, Manuel. I'm just kidding. That's a big project.
that's huge.
It's up there, but this next one, it's quite. I think it's right around triple, around triple of that price.
So you got kids, young people in their
we gotta
20s,
watch
young
it, Terry.
professionals in their 20s managing $20 to $30 million projects. Like,
Yeah, but I think that's the secret sauce there. And Terry, we've been talking about this in our camp for kids, man. The way we fix the trades is tapping into the younger generations. The problem is younger generations are hard to understand. And they're using these weird words like Riz and yeet and all this stuff, and they're playing Minecraft all day. Look at that. I love the fact that Manuel brought up Minecraft earlier because, by the way, let me just settle this. Manuel, I play Minecraft with my son. Every single time we start a new game, what's the first thing that you do in Minecraft? Go.
You chop a tree down.
And build what?
You build a bed.
Oh.
You chop a tree down, and then you kill some sheep, and you build a bed. They make a dirt house.
Yep, and then a house. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what we do every single time. It's like, make the bed, build a house. I've been playing this damn thing for like 18 years with my kids. And it's like the same thing. Build a house, build a house. So it's funny, like, these kids are sitting at home playing Minecraft all day and they just don't want to do anything. And it's like, well, no, actually, it's gamification for construction. I love it.
Yeah.
So,
well,
but,
the funny thing is that we talk about, I mean, were you managing, I mean, I know I wasn't well. You might have been doing the same. You might have been doing it, but did you have a $20 or $30 million project you were responsible for in your 20s?
I mean, I had a $9 million a year company when I was 27. But then again, was it running as efficient as it should have been? No. But to answer your question, was I running a $20 million plus project at 22?
Right.
Hell no. So I mean, that's kudos to the capacity of the younger generation. So we've been preaching it. We love it. So
I've been very blessed to start off with that kind of range, really. And that project that we're finishing up now, we're building 3 different types of construction as well. So it's been a very good learning opportunity to see all those types of construction go up.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing a PEM building, a tilt-up, and steel and studs.
oh wow, man, even doing tilt up.
Yeah.
Now, I've never done tilt up. Have you done this before, Manuel? Tilt up yet?
Tilt-up?
Yeah.
That was the first one.
Oh wow.
That was all in one project.
They intimidate me. Watching that stuff go up, it's like, woo, don't make that thing go too far the other way. Yeah. 90 degrees, not 91. So, Manuel, listen, so what is, in your opinion, the top 3 ways that a new employer today can communicate better with the younger generation?
The top 3 ways to communicate in what regard?
Communicate better with the younger workforce like yourself.
I'm trying to break it down. So, as far as while they're at work, or trying to to connect with them, or?
Yeah, actually, you answer whichever one you feel best.
Well, for the younger generation, I feel like it's important to treat them as like a colleague or another professional. If you treat them like kids, they're not gonna feel really well respected at that company. And that's something that I also looked at when I joined ACO in construction. They treated me like a professional, like somebody that could grow in that company, and I felt that sense of respect there that really intrigued me too.
Huh. That's good to hear. What's another?
I mean, there's always business is business, but I feel like there's also conversation that's not all about business. I mean, there should also be like a friendliness there. If they're willing to talk to them about, I guess breaking the ice, trying to get to know them, not just as what they have to offer for the company, as a person.
And I think that's one of the most redeeming parts of the construction industry as a whole is when you get into this industry, when you get into a business, at times you're getting a second family, and you spend a lot of time and a lot of hardship and a lot of success with this family. And my expectation is, there's going to be a Christmas party, there's going to be holiday parties, there's going to be time with your fellow employees when you can just sit back and have a good time and break bread and have a beer and be more than just a company. You can be a family.
Yeah, I mean, heck, you spend 8 to 10 hours a day with these other human beings. It's more time than we spend with our family in most cases. Terry, I got to show you a funny video when we're done today that one of my team members shared. Obviously, we do crawl space repair.
Yep.
And they shared this little funny animation of like when you're in the dirt crawl space and the PVC cement starts to kick in, and it's got Joe Rogan and all these guys dancing around because they're getting high off the fumes. And it's funny because I got it because I'm like, dude, I have been in that scenario. I'm in a dirt crawl space with 3 other guys. The PVC primer kicks in, and it's like, woo, you're getting a little and that's because you get to know the people you work with, and hell, they are second family, honestly. So Manuel, I got to ask you. We always finish each episode with one of these questions. So in your very short career, and actually, we say short, I got to give credit where credit's due. You've been doing this a long time with your dad too. So let's tap into even the old stuff if we need to. Mm-hmm. But I am known as a patron saint of screwing things up, and I like to screw it up so bad I say, hey, at least hopefully there's a screw up you can brag about it. So what's something in your career that you maybe screwed up in the past that you can at least laugh about it and maybe help a listener out there?
Trying to think of something that probably won't incriminate me or something.
Whoa, here we go. Now this may be the best one, Terry. I was about to say, Terry, did you have to give him extra time on the tests too? But then all of a sudden he says that, and I'm like, oh snap! Okay, here we go.
In my short career, something that I've messed up.
We're not. If it's that bad, we're not gonna. We'll cut it out, Manuel. But no, I love the joking, by the way.
And the names have been redacted for the protection of everyone involved.
Yeah, that's what I've been.
The listener's just going to hear for the last
Just
7
see a
minutes
black-
of the episode.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a tough question. I feel like it's got to be something that you're able to laugh about,
Yeah.
but also everybody got to know about it to laugh about it with. 'Cause, like, what if it's something that is just uncovering myself and something I hid pretty well?
Yeah.
Well, and that's the point, Will, is like you have to remember he's so young that probably has not screwed up near as much as we have in our lives. I mean,
Other than that time he jumped on the podcast with me and you.
I mean, I'm a very forgetful person. I feel like I've forgotten a couple of dates here and there that I've kind of had to roll with
That's
and
funny.
just kind of
well,
not play along, but
Maybe I should put Terry on the spot and say, Terry, while he was one of your students, what was one of the screw-ups? that he
well,
doesn't want to admit to?
so I do say this to all I say this to the majority of my students that graduate, right? Is I say, over the next, just because you're finishing the program here and you're stepping out and you're adult, but you're taking this next step, don't be afraid to reach back out, right? Give me a call, reach back out. And so I got a phone call from him, right? And I'm driving home from work and I get a phone call, hey, I need to have a conversation, right? I'm like, oh God, like what's happened, right? Like, did you screw something up on the job? Did you get into a situation? No. So he calls me and I know what I know what he wants to hear once we get into it, right? Mm-hmm. And he's like, I want to buy a new truck, right? And I talk about it.
Look at him nodding. I remember this conversation.
And it's like, it's like he knew, like it's that preaching, like you're going out, you're going to make great money, you need to be responsible, you need to do all these things that I didn't do, Will, you probably didn't do. And I have this conversation with him, and you did it. I mean, you had that conversation. Did you buy the new truck, Manuel?
I didn't buy the new truck, but I did buy a lot of parts for my truck. I bought a lot of parts for my truck. I guess, I mean, I don't want to say that was a bad choice. I feel like it was a good choice compared to buying a new truck, but it was a lot of money spent.
I got to stop you right there. This was something very important. Does your truck ride like this? Because if so, then those were definitely bad choices.
Yeah, fortunately, no. I'm not that a part of that community.
Oh, okay, good,
Yeah,
good.
no,
All right, I
what do they
like
call
this
that,
kid,
quatches?
Terry. I like this kid.
Yeah, I'm not a part of that community, so.
Yeah, squatting.
They're just squatting their truck, lifting it real high. No, I like my truck regular.
Yeah.
Well,
that's funny.
And Will, I think this is an important thing to understand, right? Like we talk to everyone about what their biggest screw up was. And the chances are that the younger generation is smarter than us. They're more responsible than us. They're making better choices than we do.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And that's the it's that idea that we're putting ourselves in their shoes, right? When I was his age, I screwed up. So had you, right? He might just be a lot better than us. You don't know.
Yeah.
Well, now that you mention it, I feel like when I was younger, I did take like a leave from from college, which I felt like slowed down my career quite a bit. Because I was a part of concurrent classes throughout high school. So I was set up to get my associates in 2 years, and instead I got it in like 3 or 4 just because I took a pretty long break in between. In retrospect, it was a good thing because I'm at where I'm at now because of that choice, but I feel like I would have been somewhere different if I had went ahead and continued school without stopping.
Yeah. Well, I think you did an amazing job, Manuel. Terry, I know I gave you a lot of crap before. You did an amazing job teaching this young man. Also, obviously, you didn't get him to apply to your school. He did it on his own, so that's a testament there. So, Manuel, thank you for being on the show. Love just shooting the breeze with you. Also, shooting a few other jokes left and right, generationally back and forth.
Yep.
And obviously picking on our generation, Terry. But to all of you folks out there, thanks for listening to another episode this week. Be sure to support our sponsors, and thank you, subscribers. Next week, we'll see you on another episode of Beers with Contractors. Have a good one, guys.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of Beers with Contractors. We hope you enjoyed our chat as much as we did. Before we say our final goodbyes, a friendly reminder. Beers with Contractors encourages responsible drinking. If you choose to enjoy a beverage during our time together, please do so in moderation and only if you're of legal drinking age in your country or state. Furthermore, the advice and insights shared in this podcast are for informational purposes only. Always consult with professionals and experts in your field, and be sure to follow local laws and regulations regarding licensing and permits. We're here to help, entertain, and inspire, but your safety and compliance are important. So, as you head out into the world of construction and contracting, remember to build responsibly and make decisions that stand the test of time. Thanks for joining us today. We'll catch you on the next episode of Beers with Contractors. Until then, cheers to your success.